Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the November 14, 2023 Whitesburg Unified School District Board meeting. I'm calling this meeting to order at 5 o'clock p.m. sharp. Wendy, do we have any public comments on closed agenda items this evening?
I do not have any public comments.
Okay, thank you. We will now break to closed session and we will reconvene the open session at 6 o'clock p.m. Thank you, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the November 14, 2023 Whitesburg Unified School District Board meeting. I'm calling this meeting to order at 6:03 p.m. We have a full agenda this evening. We have a public hearing on a leaseback agreement that you'll hear more about. We have 3 special presentations this evening. First presentation is a follow-up by Ms. Sarah Nitzos on our student achievement data. Our second presentation is by our wonderful architect, PBK Architects on the athletic complex. And our third presentation is by Wendy Avila, our bond program manager, on our bond program for Series A. So you hear more about that. At this time, Wendy, would you please take roll call?
Mr. Martinez,
Here.
Mr. Benuelos,
Here.
Dr. Goldman,
Here.
and Ms. Kathy and Ms. Canetta are absent.
Thank you, and I know both of them are under the weather, so we certainly hope that they feel better soon. Pledge of Allegiance, Jason, would you be honest? Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have no items to report this evening from closed session. Okay, next item is the adoption of the agenda. You will have a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the agenda with one modification. To move item 15.1, board member comments, to be after item 8.3.
Do we have a second on that?
You have a second. Are you saying 8.3 or 7.3? You're making it 8.3?
Making it 8.3, so it's right after the superintendent report or the district leadership report.
Right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Do have one special announcement this evening. This Sunday, we received a letter from Joanne Pineda. Obviously, as you know, she's not here this evening due to an illness, but she would have been here to basically announce her retirement. We received a letter and she's announcing her retirement from the board effective at the end of the year, December 31st. So wanted to share that. We will have a special recognition for her in December. So more to come on that. At this point, we will turn it over to the public hearing, right, Blake?
Yeah. Yes, public hearing, 5.1. Okay, want to take it away?
Yes.
So,
what I was actually hoping that we could do is sort of, we have a later agenda item. It is item 12.1. This is authorizing the execution delivery of the lease purchase agreement, 10.8 million. This is for our solar project. We have to by law have this public hearing today. But we have 2 individuals with us. We have, I believe Tim Carty is with us. Is that correct? Our financial advisor, or is it Rich? Okay.
It's me tonight, Blake.
Rich, how you doing?
Good.
And then Judy is here as well from Stradling, our law firm, bond counsel. So definitely wanted to have an opportunity now, but not to have them have to wait around until 12.1, that maybe we deal with the solar questions now and the solar project now, so they can answer these questions and we can move forward, if that's okay with the board. So I guess at this point, we would, I'd say before we open the public hearing, can we maybe request questions from the board? If there's any questions regarding the solar project or anything with item 12.1 and the attached items there.
So I do have a question. My question, and Rich, I think this would probably be for you.
regarding the pro forma that we've received on the B of A financing. In the 21st year without the IRA, we are in the black, but with the IRA, we are in the black. Prior to that, I didn't understand how the IRA money was distributed over what period of time to understand the pro forma numbers.
Sure. To answer that question, the IRA is expected to come in the next couple of years. So the financing is set up for is once the funds arrive at the district, we will do a pro rata call at that time, and each of the principal payments remaining will be reduced by a third almost. A third of the loan will be reduced on a pro rata basis in the future once the funds have arrived. We are expecting to have that call on May 1, 2024 is when we expect to trigger that call.
So more specifically to the IRA money, that is not distributed in a lump sum. It is a payout over multiple years. Is that correct?
It is a lump sum. It's my understanding from SiteLogic, it will be a lump sum to the district.
Then, gentlemen, I don't understand the pro forma.
I think the question, Rich, I don't know if you, is how is that $4 million distributed? How is it shown on the pro forma? When we look at that 30-year pro forma, how is that money, that $4 million dispersed over that, whatever it was, 20 years, I think?
The money is applied towards a prepayment of the lease at a future date. So the district will receive 3.3 million of the IRA funds. At that point in time, they will inform Bank of America that we intend to prepay a pro rata payments. If you look at scenario 2, that is, you would have to look at SiteLogic's spreadsheet and look at scenario 2 where we apply the IRA funds. It's a partial prepayment of the lease.
I think that's the question.
That is the question. I'm
That's the
not
question.
seeing where the money is.
Where is it,
Because
where is it applied?
a $4 million or $3.3 million contribution seems like it would have a significantly larger impact and we'd see a dent in those payments. I'm just not understanding. I don't see it.
We're looking at scenario 2. We just need clarification, Rich, on where that is.
So you would like a pro forma showing the future prepayment? Because what you have is a pro forma, what you're about to enter into. The IRA funds haven't shown up. It will show up in the future, and at that point in time, we will do the reduction. I mean, we could show the numbers reducing each of the,
So
each
Rich,
of the, go ahead.
Rich, if I may, we look at, do you have the spreadsheet in front of you, scenario 2?
Correct, I do.
Okay, scenario 2 is where the IRA funds have been applied. So are you saying that the 3.3 million, if I'm reading this right, or the almost 4 million, call it IRA funds, does it start being applied year 2, I guess, I would say, which is the 25, 26 year, and then it goes through the next 19 years? Am I interpreting that correctly?
Yeah, you are. So let's just start with, scenario 1. The district will have what we call capitalized interest from December until, let me just pull it up, the exact date, 11/1/24. They are pre-funding the payments until that date. At that point in time, we hope to receive the IRA funds on, let me pull it up here, 5/1/25. We will in turn reduce the payment. So if you were to go to scenario 1, the district's obligation will be $17,547,000. Once we apply the prepayment out in 2025, the payments will be reduced to $11,935,000 over time under scenario 2.
Okay, so I think to address Neil's question, it's distributed over the really a 19 or 20-year period, whatever you want to call it.
Correct. It's a pro rata reduction of each principal due, or it's semi-annually, so yes, it is over time.
Thank you. And maybe just for the public's knowledge, what we're talking about here is financing our solar project. And there is government funds called what's IRA stand for, please, Rich? I'm forgetting.
Inflation Reduction Act.
Inflation Reduction. From the Inflation Reduction Act, we will receive presumably $3.4 million, $3.36 million. If we receive that, it makes this profitable every year. And it's funded at no cost to the district. In fact, we're net positive every year, and then it becomes significantly positive at year 20 plus. But it's positive every year. We're saving more money than we're spending on the loan. My question was, how is that distributed? And he's just explained it. It makes sense. And I have my question answered. Thank you.
Can I add to Dr. Goldman that this particular pro forma also takes into account a 90% production factor, which is the lowest. So this is about the most conservative pro forma.
The worst case scenario, because we're
Correct.
guaranteed at 90%.
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Thank you, Rich and Judy.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Is that none? None? Okay. Judy, you were needed today. I'm just kidding. Sorry. Thank you. So thank you for being
Glad to
here.
be here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. All right, so we should open, we can open the public hearing and
We can open up the public hearing at 6:14. And
public comment.
yeah, are there any public comments with regards to the public hearing? Regarding the public hearing.
It'll be only regarding.
Yeah, we're. We're closing 6:15. There you go.
At least 1 minute, right?
We're closing the public hearing at 6:15.
If I may, will comment. This is pretty exciting. We've looked at this for many, many years.
Yeah.
It's the first time it's become profitable. We're good stewards of the district's finances. We're good stewards of the environment. And it's giving a gift to generations beyond us of millions of dollars of cost savings. So I'm very excited about this project. Thank you.
So we received 3 public comments. 2 public comments are on agenda items, so we'll hold off on those. And then 1 public comment is not on the agenda item, so that goes first here. So Robert Wong, please come up. Welcome. And again, according to public bylaws 9323, you have 3 minutes to address the board, and obviously, as you know, the board cannot respond to you. Okay, welcome.
Thank you. It's nice seeing you all again. My name is Robert Wong. My wife Annie and I have 2 kids that attend Da Vinci schools here. Refresh your memory, and we're Winesburg residents. As you may or may not know, on October 27th, the Da Vinci School Administration released the results of their investigations into several concerns we raised about the school's robotics program. Come here and talked about before.
All right, is that better? All right. So the concerns we had raised range from verbal abuse to manipulation of the results of this year's student leadership team, among other things. Okay. Based on a review of the report that my wife and I did, we found numerous misrepresentations, errors, lies, and omissions of fact in the report that leads us to state that the investigation and its findings therefore can't be considered credible. All right, so I'm here to let you all know that I'll be taking the next steps in the process and appealing this matter to the California Department of Education. And that's something we'll do probably within the next week. We'll also be searching for an attorney. I just want to be clear, this isn't intended to be a threat, okay? We're just taking measures to protect our family from further harm that's occurred already. Over the course of the past 13 and a half months, I and my family have been subjected to slander, mischaracterizations, acts of twisting the truth, and straight out attacks on our character and reputation, which also included engagement of the school's attorney to levy that slander as well. Okay. So lastly, I just wanted to let you all know that I'll be providing the board with documentation that rebuts the investigation over the past. I'll be doing that in the next couple of days. We got the dates for the meeting mixed up. We thought it was the usual Wednesday, Thursday, so we weren't prepared to put all that documentation until the next couple of days. But we'll get that to the board in the next couple of days. And that's it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
All right. Next item, before we move on, Wendy, do we have any other public comments for items not on the agenda?
Not any further public comments.
Okay, thank you. Right, next item is our first presentation. Ms. Sarah Nitzos, please come up. And this is a follow-up to some student achievement data. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Good evening, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen of the audience, and members of cabinet. I am pleased to come before you this evening to present part 2 of our assessment data.
Just to clarify, this was actually, a request from the board. So we just wanted to follow up with a request from the board to show some comparative data related to our school test scores. And so, that's the nexus of this presentation today.
Thank you, Dr. Silvers. So we're going to be looking at just 3rd through 8th grade data to start off. We broke the data down into just 3rd through 8th grade so we could get a more solid metric. In English language arts, you can see Weisburn at the bottom. Again, just 3rd through 8th grade, we were at 64.21% proficient and advanced in ELA. In LA County, in just 3rd through 8th grade, it was 45.64%. And in the state of California, in just 3rd through 8th grade, it was 45.11. This data is publicly available on the dashboard. However, if you were to look up the state or the county, that would conglomerate all 3rd through 11th grade. So that number is not what is reflected on this dashboard. So if anyone's looking at it on the public, you're not going to get these exact numbers because this is just 3rd through 8th. I'm going to stop saying 3rd through 8th grade now. On this page, you'll see our mathematics scores. In Weisburn, we were at 49.67. LA County was 40.64. And the state of California was 35.93. So we were 13.74 points higher than the state and 9.03 points higher than LA County. So what does that mean in the South Bay? How does that look with our neighbors here? So I pulled together some local alike districts. These are districts within our touch points and are districts we often look to. Again, I pulled only their 3rd through 8th grade data. So if anyone is looking at their dashboards on the web, it will not match. I'll give you just a minute to look it through. At Weisburn, we were at 64.21%. Our closest demographic school is Culver City, and they were at 62.28. Torrance is not as close demographically, but they were at 66.72. Here we are in math. In math, you can see that Culver City was 51.34. We were 49.67. So just 1.67% apart. So then I thought, what if we compiled a similar look-alike list? Districts that had similar enrollment numbers, similar socioeconomic percentages. Then I narrowed that list down by elementary districts that served K-8, so we could really look at that data. There were about 6 districts that were similar to us. Since this is the first time we've really looked this broadly for similar comparable districts, we're going to continue this search and make sure that we're always looking for who might be a similar school to us. You can see Wiseburn, we're the star in the middle. It travels from San Diego all the way to Bakersfield. But these are the districts we're going to be comparing. I call them our lookalikes. So we have Newhall, which is located in Los Angeles at 66.76%. Cypress, which is located in Orange County. Goleta, which is located in Santa Barbara. Norris, which is in Kern County. Orcutt, which is in Santa Barbara. And Lakeside, which is in San Diego. So those were the districts that were most similar to us. Again, this is 3rd through 8th grade only. I lied, I said it again. 64.21%, so we're right there in the middle with districts that have similar comparative metrics to us. And in math, we were at 49.67. Goleta was above at 56.15, and Norris is at 43.79. I was also requested to bring to you the high school numbers. So now we're going to transfer to just looking at 11th grade only metrics. We're going to leave 3rd through 8th behind and transfer into a high school. So the high school attached to Wiseburn is our Da Vinci's. I took all 3 of the Da Vinci's and averaged them together. So this is a representation of all 3 Da Vinci's put together. They were at 70.87% of the students proficient or advanced in ELA. LA County was 53.47, and the state of California was 55. One of the reasons I averaged all 3 of them together is in 11th grade, communication had 128 students, design had 124, and science had 139, for a grand total of 391. So to break them out further really kind of slices the bologna a little thin, but I do have those metrics.
Nice to know we're seeing baloney, thank you.
Everyone's hungry.
So this is the math. Da Vinci was 36.33% proficient or advanced in math. LA County was 26.72, and the state of California was 27% proficient in advanced. So then I set them against the same districts that we compared Wiseburn to, El Segundo, Redondo Beach, Torrance, Culver City, and I put in Centinela since that's the feeder high school for Hawthorne and Lawndale that we had compared Wiseburn to in the earlier slides. So that's where that stacks up. And here it is for math. So the question is, what in the 3rd through 8th grade world are we doing with this data? And how are we really actualizing this and making things better? We're firming up our scope and sequence in order to make sure that we're performing in ways that we want and that our teachers are really feeling secure that they're getting through the content. We're looking at our writing program. We adopted a science curriculum last year. We're working on a math adoption. We just sent a group of teachers to the California Math Conference. They came back with lots of new strategies. We were able to go into the vendors and really look for materials that match our needs in the area of math. Our main thrust is how we are working in personalized instruction for reading and math. We're working with teachers to see what we need. And then we're refining this work with principals and our guiding coalition that goes to our teacher collaborative time, or TCT, all to support our children. Thank you for your time, and I will be happy to take any questions.
Questions?
Just a comment. Thank you for the data. I appreciate that we are, in our efforts to be data driven, we are using the data, acting on the data. I like the idea of the wing time, the personalization of teaching. My takeaway here is we are in line with and or above here in many levels. But the big picture to me is at the 3 through 8 level, 1/3 of our students are not meeting ELA standards. At the 11th grade level, 30% of our kids are not meeting ELA standards. At the 3 through 8, half of our kids aren't meeting math standards, and 62% of our kids in 11th grade are not meeting standards. I know this is in line with comparative, so let's appreciate that. And to the efforts that we're putting forth to increase our performance in math, particularly and ELA, keep the faith and keep the energy going, because we're not where we need to be. Thank you.
Thank you. I can say that starting today, we have many grade levels work on IABs, which are the interim assessment blocks, which are kind of mini versions of the state test, so that they can get more, not to test, but to get more information about where are our children? What questions are they really struggling with? What concepts are they really struggling with? So that we can really seek to fill those gaps starting now.
A question for you, or a comment here, maybe for a future discussion as well, or for a future discussion. On slide 7, and I look at the ELA demographics, which I really appreciate this slide because it shows us a more comparable district, not just geographic, but comparable demographics. But look at slide 7, see like Newhall, Cypress, Goleta, and ourselves, the top 4, if you will, we're about within 2% for ELA, right, in terms of the achievement of the meets and the meets and exceeds. Then I go to the next slide, which is 8, and this is the math for math, and I see 63, 62, 56, 49. So here we're like 14% different, even though we have the same demographic. Are they doing something different than we are?
That is definitely the question, and it's something that we're seeking. I have phone calls into some of these districts to try and ask what they're using, what resources, what materials, did they adopt a new math series? That's an investigation that's ongoing.
Great, thank you.
I would say to that point too, Roger, one of the things that you notice or that stands out is just the drop off. There's such a big drop. Well, I don't even want to call it a drop off, but scores have gone down. Call it what we want. In 18-19 in Wiseburn, you see 74.63% ELA drops to 64, so about a 10% drop off. You don't see those same drop offs, those same 10% drop offs. We just want to figure out what. I mean, obviously we know the pandemic happened. Yeah, and I do want to say though, the one characteristic that's not in here is that we are 40% permit as well, 38%. So and I know they're not. So I'm not sure how that accounts for things, and so there's some dynamics that we need to look at, kind of determine how to address this gap there.
And to Dr. Silver's point, we only looked at enrollment numbers and socioeconomically disadvantaged similarities. That's where our analysis really stopped. So there are a number of other factors that play into that, which is why I say our search is still ongoing for our lookalikes.
That seems like a logical way to go, though. Go ahead.
The final question I have here is in terms of just working together as a unified school district, right? We see our English or ELA and math scores, right? A lot of our students matriculate and go into Da Vinci schools. So that's also contributed to what their results, if they stay, to the 11th grade as well. I've said I know the individual students that are being tested, right? But I also see, like, for example, at Da Vinci, if we look at their ELA scores, that was at 70.67. But mathematics also drops significantly. And they have a very similar drop. They're at 36%. So there's some of these districts that are doing things differently. And I think we need to look at what that is. So I'm really looking forward to hearing some feedback and input on both our 3 through 8, but also on the Da Vinci side. And also, how do we support from our students? How do we prepare our students for what they're going to be tested on as well? And I realize the test isn't everything, but it's a metric, and it helps us to inform and make decisions as we move forward. So the request is to please look at and go back to the board with what the other districts are doing, but also how we can support and work together with Da Vinci on both ELA and math.
One of the things I did look at that I wasn't able to put in the slides just quick because it came to me at the last moment was our chronic absenteeism rate was a lot higher than some of those other districts last year. So that might have fed into that, but definitely we'll keep looking and digging into that information.
Roger, I would say too, one of the things, I had a conversation with a colleague recently, and in another school district that saw tremendous gains in ELA and mathematics. And what they attribute it to are two things. And one is a PLC process, that's our professional learning communities, teacher collaboration. And then the second one was very, very specific articulation. And it was actually written up, I believe, by Richard DeFore. I mean, there's a whole study on this particular district because of these two initiatives, these two very, very focused initiatives. So I say that to say we need to do a better job of articulation particularly. And I don't mean just between 8th grade or middle school and high schools, although we do have to do much better there. But we also have to look in our elementary schools and how we're transitioning and articulating skills and achievement up.
2, 3, 3,
Right,
4.
exactly. So that is something we're looking at, and I think it's an area that we just need to get better at.
I only have one comment, and that is at the state, local level, even our own school district, we're failing math. I mean, we're really failing in math. And the question that I have is, are there any districts out there that are performing at 75% or above in math? In the state of California?
In the state of California, there are districts that are performing at 75% and above. They're very rare. But Manhattan Beach would be an example of a district that's performing in the 70s. Palo Alto.
Yeah, so we may want to.
And still in those districts, 25% of the students, 1/4 of the students are not meeting the state standard. That is abysmal.
But I'll take 75%.
Yeah, for sure.
So I guess the question, and I guess that's, you're working on that, Sarah, is trying to really find out from these districts, what are they doing?
Yeah.
Especially the ones that are at 75%, because obviously it's not the state, the county, everybody is doing something wrong when we're seeing these kind of results, right? I mean, from my standpoint. So the other thing with regards to the Da Vinci High School, I see that it's averaged out between the 3 high schools. Are we seeing a difference between the schools, Da Vinci Science, Da Vinci Communication, and Da Vinci Design? That's a drill down. You don't have to answer that at this point, but are we seeing differences between the schools? And that may be because there's no way we can help if we don't find out where the problem is. For example, I think in a previous presentation we see a drop off at the 5th grade level or 4th grade level at the elementary school. So we know that there's a problem there. So we probably need to start doing some drill downs at the specific schools and so forth, not only in the 3rd through 8th, but even at the high school to find out where are we having these issues. I think that's all for my comments. Thank you again for the presentation. So.
Thank you.
I was just gonna say too, I think Eileen wanted to be here, but she heard the conversation and ran out. But I'm just kidding. She's actually wanted to be here. She's on a call with Lako, so she's in the middle of a hearing at this point, so she just wanted to apologize for not being here.
As long as it's about math, we're great.
It's not about that.
Workshop. All right. Thank you again, Sarah, for the presentation. Our next presentation is from PBK Architects.
Yeah, I think Noemi wanted to come up and give an intro.
Sure.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm kidding. No, we're lucky enough to have PBK here again for the second meeting. The board did request that PBK come back, that we were able to provide some input to them, to the design team, and have had a chance to review some of these drawings. We're really excited about the presentation today. Thank you.
For the public, this is regarding the athletic sports complex on 135th and Aviation. So
Please turn your mic. Thank you.
welcome.
Is that working? Yeah.
See a little red light.
Just push that button there.
There you go.
There you go. I had trouble with the remote. Now I have trouble with the mic. Again, thank you for giving us the opportunity. Good evening, Board President Martinez, members of the board, members of the community, Dr. Silvers. What we're going to do tonight is give you an update based on our conversation a little bit under 2 weeks ago. Took the ideas, heard you guys, took the priorities and revised options 1 and 3. And then what we also did is came up with a separate option that I think everyone will agree is probably headed in the right direction. So what we'll do here is go on to the next slide. Oh, there it is. That's a little lag to it.
Yeah.
It's not moving. There you go. So right now, like I said, what we'll do is review options 1 and 3. I call it revised because we took your ideas, your comments, and then came up with a different scenario. And then what we did is we created an option 8 that we are labeling as the selected options. And then the next step would be to keep going, pushing forward and going to schematic designs. If we can go to the next slide. Before we go to the revised options, one of the things that we did discover, NAZ was helpful in finding existing drawings for the site. What we realized is that there actually is a fire lane that is going through our site. We had assumed that our area was completely separate from Weisberg Middle School, but in fact, it's using that lot to access some of the buildings on the left side. So once we learned about that, we started looking at possibilities of how to work around that and make sure that we maintain the fire lanes. So if you can please go to the next slide. So what we're doing here is providing 2 options. Option 1 and option 2. Option 1 is our preferred because what it does is it's the least invasive to the middle school. And what it does is not doing much in terms of what the impact it is on our field, right? So option 1 is we would go through our drive, our parking lot, and then around the existing maintenance building, we create a fire lane turning radius where a fire truck can access the hydrant, which is about under 150 feet away. And then the next step here is we would have to engage the fire department, ensure that they can buy off on this idea. It does meet the code regulations in terms of turning radius and distances, but what we need to do is get the fire department to sign up on it. So that would be our next steps there. And if they are hesitant about that, what we can do is bring in option 2, which unfortunately would have to transverse through the middle school. A little bit more invasive, but I think it also does satisfy the needs in order to access a fire hydrant that's about 150 feet away.
Does that mean removal of those? I mean, obviously removal of those planters that are in the middle of the courtyard.
It would, and that's why we're gonna push for option 1. The only thing that option 1 really impacts at the moment is that we would have to relocate the fence so that it doesn't do too much to the middle school. Did he steal your question?
Don't touch my planner. There is a potential time issue on the investment reimbursement act, what's it called? Oh, what's IRA stand?
Inflation Reduction?
Inflation Reduction Act, thank you. What is the time consideration, worst case scenario with fire approval? Is that months, is that days?
Oh, no, it would, we can get sign off, I'd say within weeks. What we'll do is we'll go ahead and try to do over the counter for the fire department, get this in front of them, and then it would be just a matter of them signing off on it. Like I said, the option 1 meets all the code regulations required by the California Building Code, or Fire Code rather. And so it's just a matter of getting a sign off as a courtesy to the fire department.
Do not share option 2 with them.
Right, I was gonna say, let's
Not going without.
It's not tied
Yeah,
to,
I just
solar project.
This is,
Okay.
no IRA funds here, thank you.
Yes, option 1 is what we would present. The reason why we're bringing up option 2 is that that's kind of our backup plan if all else fails.
Substantive time is not as important. Don't touch my plan.
We'll try not to.
Okay, thank you.
So that's just kind of giving you an update of our new findings in the past week and a half. And then the next few slides, I'll hand it over to Marcos and he can give you a better update on what we did on options 1, options 3, and option 8.
Great, thank you. Go to the next slide. So this is option 1, which was previously discussed a couple weeks ago. And if you can go to the next slide, I can more so speak about how we kind of modified the site, and we've realized that there's an existing electrical yard in the top right corner of the site. So we had to kind of engage the existing middle school and encroach about 15 feet into the middle school, but on that side, there is really nothing that we would be taking away from the site. So with that, the layout slightly changed, but is mostly the same.
That doesn't impact the driveway, the entrance to the driveway?
No, that does not. It does take away one of your planners though. There is a planner on the left.
It's the one long one.
It's the long one at the end, yeah. Right one. If we go to the next slide, please. So this would be option 3, which was discussed a couple weeks ago as well. Here in this option, you'll notice, if we go to the next slide, the existing electrical yard encroached into the high school minimum soccer field. And so for this option, we would have to reduce the size of the soccer field to a 9v9 pitch, as well as, but you would be able to create a practice field for under 12s. It wouldn't affect the softball or little league fields. So for option 3, that would just be the only change.
But it's not a high school.
No, it wouldn't be a high school regulation size field. And then following this would be the final option, I think it's 8. And in this option, again, we went into the middle school about 15 feet. However, we've situated the soccer field and delineated that area from the baseball and softball fields, and actually increased the soccer field size to the recommended size of 65 yards by 100 yards. And you can situate 2 9v9 soccer fields on that pitch with enough space for the Little League and the softball fields, where the Little League field would be in the correct orientation to the north east side.
So, question on that. So first of all, Roger and I sit on the facilities committee, so we like option 8. So that, I think that's a recommendation coming from the facilities committee. With regards to the baseball and the softball field, the baseball field right now and the softball field, could we actually change that? Where the softball field, so the softball field, if you remember from my comments, the softball team will typically play, I think, after 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock. Vicente's not here, but I think he confirmed that at the last meeting. So that would be right in the line of the sunset. So could those be swapped or not?
It would be very difficult. Currently, so that softball field, if we look at the NFHS regulations, it has a buffer. So where that kind of brown area is, it cannot be tapered like the Little League field. So if you kind of can imagine the softball field flipping, it would engage the existing building. So we'd have to basically demolish that building to have that orientation.
Okay.
Yeah, the only way to get the softball field to fit there is that we would have to reduce the distance between the foul line and the dugout. I think the recommended is between 25 and 28, and then we would have to reduce it, which usually we've seen it as low as 20, but it doesn't buy you too much. And so to just add on to what Mark was saying, the advantage of putting the Little League in that area is that you can actually taper the space between the foul line and the dugout.
Yeah, the location, like I was just thinking from the playing standpoint, the location, it's still kind of from the main entrance of the parking lot, just a little further down. So, can't have everything, right?
Is there a way we can block the sun? So I have a question though about the middle, couple things, and I don't know, maybe the question, maybe this is more for schematic design, but I noticed the batting cages up there. That's just not an ideal location for batting cages when you're dealing with baseball fields. Usually they're along the side foul lines. Not sure if they fit here. I'd like to try to see if we can fit those batting cages along there, and I also don't see a footprint for a bullpen of some sort. So wondering if there's going to be some ability to put, just a warm-up area for baseball, softball. I have one more item, and that would be the middle area, which is gray, more asphalt looking, or some sort of hard surface. Is there a way that could be a turf-like material? Well, I know there's a way to do it. How much more would that cost, I guess is the question, because then that could be almost a practice area, staging area when there's no baseball. I think in terms of cost, there is a little bit of a premium, but I don't think it's anywhere that's going to, increase it significantly, right? Because it's not that much surface area right now, and the difference between and that area might be asphalt, it could be concrete, and if we're going to start going into concrete, then your cost with synthetic surface is going to get relatively close. Right?
I think
we
we
should
should just do that.
Definitely, and then that can be, like I said, can be extra area for play. In terms of the batting cages, we do have 2 locations. So one could easily be turned into a pitch, right? So it doesn't have to be in that orientation. And then, like you said, during schematic design, we can play around with it and see what's a good spot to place that.
Is there like iterations to schematic design? Because I don't know, I love baseball.
I love to see this, you know, and I love all sports, but I mean, I would like to see, though, if possible, some of these fit in a way that is conducive to the sport and makes it easy with electrical and all of those things that. Absolutely. Like, the next phase in the schematic design will also set milestones. So we'll have multiple iterations. We'll have time for you guys to review it. Same thing. So we'll just start developing this a little bit more, pointing on more details into it as well. And then, like I said, we'll present it again. You guys can give us your feedback, and then we'll do another iteration.
I think I see it here, but I just want to confirm. The Musco lighting is in this plan too?
Yes, I think. Yeah, circle with the lines should define the Musco lighting. I think we accounted for about 9 in this scheme here.
Okay. That's the red.
Yeah, it's a red or a pink. Yeah, exactly.
That's $1 million. It's hard to see it. That's $1 million.
Yeah, they're about 120,000 a piece for sports lighting.
So all the soccer fields and baseball fields will have.
They will all be illuminated, yes.
And being concerned about our neighbors, and I know lighting has evolved, but that would be my concern, just to ensure that we're being good neighbors at night to our neighbors.
Yes, I think as part of our development of the drawings, we'll probably engage Musco Lighting, and they'll probably can do a lighting study to ensure that it's not projecting towards the residential areas.
To that point, Neil, I think one of our action items for the future, if this sort of move forward is having our own consideration in terms of the amount of playtime that we allow on these fields, and which means that the lights come off at a certain time. It can't be on indefinitely, like at 10 to midnight or whatever the case might be. I know the fields are in high demand, but they're not going to be open 24/7. So that's something that we're going to have to look at and just create a board policy of when those lights have to come off at different times of the year. So that's something for us to consider and do.
And one more board policy conversation I'd like us to have is that we are making an investment with community dollars that I'd like to ensure is replenished to the greatest extent possible when it comes time to refurbish and renew. Maybe it's 10 years. I'm not sure the lifespan. In fact, that's a question for you in a moment. Before that, therefore, I would like us to have a board policy such that our partners who play on these fields, AYSO, Little League, etc., have a fee associated with usage of the fields, not exorbitant, but such that they are replenishing a fund so that the community doesn't ever have to pay for these again to the greatest extent possible.
Yeah, I believe we have a partnership with AYSO and the Del Air Elementary School.
Right. Again, fair to all, but so everybody's paying their fair.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good topic also for the sports recreation committee.
Yeah, please.
Any other?
And one final comment, I wanted to thank NAZ and PBK. I know we kind of put you guys through the ringer. But I know that says site plan option number 8, but I think you probably put together 20 different options. And I know Nelson and I in the facility subcommittee reviewed, I think, 7 of them. So I know I really do appreciate all of your hard work and energy and effort to try to take in all of our multiple comments with regards to the fields. They're obviously very, very important. I do in particular like having where we have our concession stand and restroom by that parking lot area. I think it's more accessible. It's closer to the parking lot. It's lends for a much easier approach to arriving at a facility, which is going to be off 135th as opposed to on Aviation, which has a lot more different traffic. It's a natural location for it. So thank you for factoring all those comments in. Really appreciate it.
Sure thing. It's exactly what we do. You know, we're architects, and this is our passion, designing and doing all these iterations. So we have no problem doing that. I just want to share the one thing to point out is that there's no beach volleyball footprint on this particular design. After moving things around and seeing the need for the larger soccer space there at the top, obviously, some baseball field, softball field are larger footprints than what maybe we think, what we thought. just because of that impact and wanting to make sure we ensure the 40 spaces, the 40 additional parking spaces, it just, something had to give. And so that's what you see removed. I know at one point in the future, we may come back with a recommendation to the facilities committee to add that beach volleyball footprint, maybe either at the Del Air site or also over at the current Dana playground on the east side of the Dana Middle School, or I'm sorry, the Wiseburn Middle School, property.
So the big question is in,
When what?
when's the grand opening?
For the community? Yes. I told Noemi August 1, but she said no. No way. You know, right, what year?
One last comment to your jocular comment about blocking the sun. I'm not sure it's exactly all that jocular. How high can do we make the fence here such that the sun in its worst case scenario was not blinding batters? And is that figured into our calculations?
Yes, it is. So the backstop would be at about 30, it should be 30 feet high backstops. The fence around would probably be lower. So we'd run the backstop with around the little league would be 30 feet high. But the perimeter fencing that's colored in blue would probably be your typical 8 to 10 foot high.
So can we look at what the difference would be in raising that?
Yes, we can. Yeah. In terms of keeping the perimeter fencing higher, you mean?
Yeah, just for the purpose that our biggest concern is the direction of the field. If we can mitigate that with a higher fence that doesn't break the bank, yeah.
Yeah, we can look into that. Yeah, at that point, you know, once you get beyond the 10 foot high fence, you get economy of scale just because the footings will increase, but you might be able to get back that, you know, the priority of blocking out some of the stuff, right? And Dr. Goldman, to your point, so I actually did receive a few comments throughout, I think it was throughout the, maybe it was after demolition or maybe throughout the bond campaign related to safety and security, just the ability now with them being an open field, being able to look directly into the middle school, there's just not a lot of blockage there. So the fencing may even add another layer of security.
Thank you.
We'll definitely look into that into the schematic design. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. I know the community is very excited about this project. They've been waiting a long time, and our sports programs are thriving in the community. I know that Wiseburn Little League's enrollment is the highest ever in their history, and softball is back. So there's definitely a need for field space. So thank you again, and brings us to our next presentation, Noemi, who will talk a little bit more about the model.
While they were presenting, I already prepared the project tracking number for DSA so that we can get started tomorrow with schematic design and start preparing our DSA submittal. That's how fast we work.
Before you get started here, I know we don't have the sports complex as an action item to approve, but I believe you do have more consensus to move forward with that option 8.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Through the next phase of schematic design as presented with the numbers and budgets, and we'll continue to track that in future presentations as well.
I'm sorry, yeah, I should have asked, but thank you so much.
Yeah, consensus from my understanding, based on the comments from the board, you have consensus to move forward.
All right. Well, good evening, everybody. Board of Trustees, Dr. Silvers, members of the audience. It's a pleasure to be back again to provide you with our what should be basically around every month our Measure E bond program update. This is update number 7. So this is our agenda items for this evening. We'll start with a holistic view of Measure EE, our bond fund. We'll then dive in to the individual project updates. I decided to add some information just based on our last board meeting. There were some questions about the facilities master plan, the cost allocations, the overall need that was identified in the facilities master plan. So I think it's important to revisit that briefly to help keep us informed as we move forward with our Series A projects. And then we'll close with a closer look at all of our projects in terms of their budget. Okay. So when we think of Measure EE, we think $98 million, right? We think that's a lot of money for construction, but I want to make sure, especially since we have more and more members of the audience attend these board meetings, that they understand that $98 million doesn't mean all is going to construction of projects. From the $98 million, there are some associated fees of even issuing each of the 4 series that you see here. It's about $367,000 per each series that is issued. So series A, B, C, and D. That leaves us about $96.5 million. From there, we further take about 10% for program contingency. And then we also take almost $10 million for bond administration. So almost $26.5 million off the top, which leaves us approximately $70 million for our projects. From there, you still have to split it again into soft costs and hard costs. So that leaves us about $52 million for construction of all of our projects. That means all 4 series, series A, B, C, and D. And as you can see, I've given you a snapshot of what each series will be, accounting for each draw, the planned draw. So the next round would be $37 million after the series, after the cost issuance. You can see series B is at 36.6. It reflects your bond administration, your program contingency. You'll notice that series B, C, and D, I was a little bit more conservative and I increased our program contingency from 10% to 20%. Now keep in mind that that is for projects. So as we start defining projects or we start seeing that we might have some shortfalls, then we move that money towards the actual hard cost or soft cost, wherever that is needed. So that will stay with the projects. Just for clarification, bond administration fees or bond with typical expenditures under bond administration would be your program management, your bond counsel, your district legal counsel, administrative fees, band fees, I don't know if I mentioned it, as well as district-wide projects. Like for example, the LPA contract that we issued to develop design standards district-wide, that falls under bond administration because it is not tied to an individual project. Any questions on this slide? So again, just trying to give you a holistic view of all of our funds going forward. Now, our goal is to come back at a later board meeting, maybe after the new year, and start having a board priority workshop with all board members so that we can start prioritizing the next round of projects. Ideally, it would be great if now that we have a holistic view of the entire $98 million, we can start planning for all the remaining 3 series.
And thank you for including the soft costs.
Thank you. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Cherie. She has now been managing the network infrastructure project in its entirety. So,
Thank you.
I do want to remind everybody that the network infrastructure project is broken up into 3 phases. So what I'm going to speak to now is phase 2, and that's the data center improvements project. That is where we contracted NAC, the architecture firm. They have been brought in to do a building envelope assessment to ensure that the building that the equipment will be housed in is effective and is going to house the equipment with no issues. So we've been working with NAC, excuse me. There has been an in-person meeting with DSA to specifically review the fire life safety components of the project. And they are currently working on doing their DSA bid documents. So we have 2 sets. We're going to have a DSA set and a non-DSA set. And those documents are currently in progress. And we are currently planning to start the bidding process January 11th. Once we conduct bidding, construction, I want to point out, will start in around April, and we are having it complete in May. So construction of the improvements of this building will be completed prior to actual commencement of the actual equipment going into the building. That is how we are planning this project. One thing I do want to mention is that, as I mentioned, it was into 3 phases. Phase 1 was the purchase of the equipment for the network infrastructure. That has already been procured. That equipment has already been received by the district, and that was around a $900,000 investment. That's the equipment that was purchased earlier this year. The data center improvements, so the overall ROM for the actual data center improvements is around $200,000. Any questions on that so far with the actual data center?
So just to clarify, the data center being the Del Air Elementary School room that distributes all of the network signal to the rest of the district.
That is correct.
It's like the main distribution.
Yeah, consider it the main hub.
Yeah.
One thing, this, if I may, Jason, maybe a question for you or Dr. Silvers. I noticed on our school, for example, we're paying a legacy API fund. I'm curious if with the new system, we will lose any of those legacy API funds that we won't need to pay extra for API integration because it'll be easier. I'm assuming that's the case, but I don't know if we know that. You may not know at this time, but it'd be interesting to look at that. What are we paying in extra API Band-Aid fixed connections that we won't need to, but that's not irrelevant for our future budgets. Thank you.
And just one comment for the community is the network infrastructure project is a project that was identified in the facilities master plan, part of site and safety security, a priority 1 project. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. So moving on to phase 3. Phase 3 is the assessments that are currently being done. We're doing assessments hand in hand with the overall network infrastructure, as well as the safety and security projects, which safety and security will be future projects. Our priority right now is the data center, the network and the WAN, so the network infrastructure for the district, which is noted here on these slides as phase 1 and 2. Those assessments have been completed. We're currently in phase 3 collaboration and Olympus. A workshop occurred today with district IT and Cisco and NetSync. We have collaborated with to do all the assessments for the projects. We are anticipating that all information, the data gathering, will be completed by this coming Friday. And we will move into phase 4. And that is where they take all the information that they've gathered and they've assessed, and they start building reports and helping us develop timelines as to when the projects can be implemented and the overall cost for all of them. Phase 1 is our top priority, and that's items 1 and 2. We have $1.1 million remaining for the implementation of that plan. We do not have an overall program ROM yet for any of the future additional phases for safety and security that will need to be implemented and roll out. But again, those are part of future phases. And the reason why we're doing this all now is to ensure that all components and everything that is being planned will work together. So this is a holistic approach to ensuring that the data center, as well as all safety and security projects, talk to one another.
And I just want to add to that, we had a chance to meet at the facilities committee meeting with Roger Nelson. And one of the requests was that we bring back SHRED, an activity where we not reprioritize necessarily, but that we memorialize a new prioritization of projects now that we're well underway, so that, we know moving into phase 2, that would then fall into probably looking at completing 3 and 4. So as we go through that, then we'll be able to prioritize and potentially have some dates for the next 2 phases. But we'll make sure we get that in the early part of the year.
And we're anticipating having all the reports for our internal review, and then Noemi and I will work even closer with Cisco and NetSync to start developing overall plans as they would tie in to our individual projects. So that information is planned to be provided by the end of this year, I think, at the latest. Are there any questions relative to the network project?
Not really a question, but a comment. In my strategic planning, working with clients across the country, roughly half of them had a cybersecurity presentation. And this is all about security, performance, etc. And some of them shared an example, for example, of the nightmare that Caesars and MGM went through in Las Vegas. And those were great examples of the bigger problem, which is human error. And in those cases, they got in through an email, got someone's credentials, and backdoor got priority access to the system. So this is great. I love that we're doing this, and it alerted me to alert us to have greater training and experiential learning, not just, hey, think of this, but actually experiential training if we can to our staff at all levels, because that's our greatest risk. Thanks. Thank you.
I have a comment too. I just want to say, I want to thank Sheree for her work on this. This was a very, very complex project. It's a $3 million project, but it was really complex being able to just get through, first of all, the procurement, and then dealing with multiple different organizations or companies that, you know, promise certain things and couldn't deliver, and then having to and then you have to find a company that's willing to work with you and willing to work with the equipment that we purchased and want. So it was a real challenge to get to a point where we're in a very, very good place with a good plan, and just wanted to thank Sheree for her time and effort in that.
Moving on. Thank you. So moving on to the Del Air Elementary School project. This is for the minor modernization and safety and security project. I went ahead and provided a brief scope of work description here. I know it's been brought up, but basically the type of work that is expected in a minor modernization project is a refresh of all interior spaces with some minor improvements to the exterior. For example, you'll get new flooring, ceiling tiles, lighting, interior and exterior painting as needed, potentially new doors if determined that they're needed, tackable wall panels, definitely restroom upgrades. I've gone ahead and crossed that roof replacement because we're going to address it as a separate project, but it is a typical part of the modernization project, as well as mechanical, electrical, plumbing, audiovisual, and other finishes. And one key item here to remember is that all of these projects, as we move forward with modernization, is flexible furniture, which is not only are they getting a brand new classroom that looks and feels like a brand new space, but they'll all get new flexible furniture that is conducive to the way education is headed. In terms of the safety and security, again, it all depends on what is determined that is needed, but typical items may include our fencing, gates, door access controls, the intercom system that you've already seen that we've gone ahead and started installing at some of our sites, as well as fire alarms, public address systems, and other communication systems. For this project, you're looking just for the minor modernization and safety and security, you're looking at a overall program RON or cost estimate, basically of order of magnitude of $7.5 million. I've gone ahead and provided a breakdown of the cost. You can see hard costs at $5.6 million, soft costs at $1.8 million. I mentioned that we would split this project into two phases. The first phase, just because we have completed a complete assessment of the condition of all the roofs. We brought in a roofing company and determined that all of our roofs at Del Air have more than exceeded their life cycle. There's been a lot of leaks. And as you know, with the design process, it takes time. We don't have the luxury of time. We decided to split this project into two parts or two phases so that we can prioritize the roofs, especially since we're expecting El Niño. In terms of schedule for the minor modernization project, we're looking at submitting to DSA in April of 2024 and planning to start bidding in September of 2024 with a planned award at the end of next year. Looking in terms of construction, you can see the bar graph that is in two tones, in green and blue, and the reason behind that is because we would start the process with what we call a limited notice to proceed to the selected contractor. And the reason behind that is there's no construction that starts at that time. We're simply authorizing them, it's a limited notice to proceed, to start the submittal process, to start procuring all of the long lead equipment, which we'll have plenty of it. As you know, we're replacing all of the HVAC units, electrical gear, items of that nature, anything that is door access controls, those are all items that are generally long lead. And rather than waiting and starting the project and not having the material when we need it, we will start the procurement first or the submittal process, and then we will actually start construction in June of 2025, once hopefully that all of the equipment has arrived. Or at least in line with when construction starts. I also added a line here, the red line that you can see reflects June of 2025. That is when Series B dollars are available, just as a point of reference. Any questions? So for this next project, again, Del Air Elementary School, this is the roof replacement project. As I mentioned, we have been working with Garland Roofing we're looking at a full replacement, which is provides a 30-year warranty. During that 30 years, basically Garland, and they're under complete, on the hook, basically, for any repairs, any damage for 30 years. Of them. Thank you. I'll let them know. For this project, we have allocated $2 million. We've extracted that from the minor modernization project. Remember, it was all part of the same. And we're looking for additional savings. This was another opportunity for us to save money for the district. Garland happens to have a CMAS that if we could purchase the material directly from them. If the board is in agreement with allowing us to move forward with this project as is now, then we would start the process at the next board meeting, actually, of approving the materials list so that we can start placing the orders for the materials at approximately $745,000. By using the CMAS, we are saving $240,000 for the district. In addition, there is an urgency to issue the purchase order to Garland by the end of December. And the reason behind that is that we will lock in 2023 dollars versus come January 1st, then it would be an increase of approximately $40,000. So our numbers here reflect a savings of additional savings of $40,000, assuming we issue the PO by the end of the year.
What do you need from us?
The board approval at the next board meeting. So at the next meeting, we're coming with the material list. And as soon as you approve it, we will start, which is the next board meeting is December 14th. So it gives us plenty of time to start the PO process. The overall labor cost estimate or rough order of magnitude is approximately $1.2 million. We will have to bid this project, publicly bid it to certified installers, roofing installers. As you can see, we're starting that process tomorrow, starting November 15th. The legal ad will be placed with our goal of starting construction over summer from June 2024 through August 2024. That way we don't disrupt instruction during the school year. So the next project is the 135th in Aviation Sports Complex. This summary reflects option 8, which is the selected option by the board and the facilities oversight committee. And as you can see, the overall program ROM is $12.4 million for this option. This does include hard cost at 9.3 and soft cost at $3.1 million.
Well, just for the public's edification, I think it's worthy. Some of these numbers are just painful to look at in terms of some of the labor costs and such. I think it might be relevant to share about DSA, relevant prevailing wage, some of the things we have little discretion over because that we are mandated. Can you just talk to that briefly?
Absolutely. So unfortunately, all of our projects, we can't just go or select a contractor. We have to either publicly bid it or go through a formal procurement method to identify a delivery method. And all of our projects are public works projects, which that alone adds a wage rate that is required per trade. So every tradesman has their own wage that we have to pay. We don't have a choice. And some of these wages are very high, but it's law. We have to do it. In addition, all of our projects, or I would say the majority of our projects, that exceed a DSA threshold of like $125,000, which is extremely low. Therefore, the majority of our projects have to go for DSA. There are DSA fees that we have to pay, plus obviously the delay of sitting at DSA, our drawings not being reviewed or reviewed over a period of 5 or plus months, which again pushes our schedule out to later. And every month that our project is delayed, obviously increases the cost.
And
Slightly, but it
DSA, which is
increases
the architects, who's the overseer involved.
And under soft costs, we have, and I've mentioned it before, but soft costs, there's a lot of costs that are involved. The architectural fees, the inspector of record, the lab of record, geotechnical, surveys, testing, all required by DSA. So DSA adds $3.1 million requirement for just this project alone, basically.
Thank you.
But it ensures that all of our sites are safe. I would add that. Our next project is the Weisburn High School soccer field project. Now, I've gone ahead and presented basically not two options, but the two options that we contemplated during the Facilities Oversight Committee meetings. Previously, the board had seen option 2, which included the entire project, the field, the bleachers, the scoreboard, and some fencing. That overall program cost estimate is at $3.8 million, with hard cost at 2.9 and soft cost at approximately close to $1 million. Since we have met with the facilities committee, the selected option is the field option only. And this is partly because of obviously cost. We have to make sure that we prioritize our costs. And this was the only project that was not directly listed on the facilities master plan. You'll see in one of my slides down later. For the field only, which involves the grading and the turf, essentially the carpet, you're looking at $2.4 million, $120 for hard, and $600,000 for soft costs. In terms of construction, our goal would be to start construction at the end of April of 2024 and be done by August of 2024. So this would be a summer completion for this project. Yeah, summer, yes. Yes. Yeah.
No, if you could stay on that slide just for a minute. On this project, as you can see, we had the option 2 and field option, if you will. You also presented, and we've been discussing on that, the Delaware Elementary project. On that one, we're at the very beginning stages as well, in terms of scope. As we move forward, we might be in a position where we also have to look at bid alternates and potential scope reductions, because we don't know exactly where that project is going to come in at bid time. We're very early on in the design stages. With regards to this soccer field for this site, the scope is more limited, if you will, in terms of components. You're looking at 4 items, the field, or 3, field, bleacher, scoreboard, and some miscellaneous items, I'm sure, right? But as we move forward with our other projects, we're probably going to be going through a very similar process. Hopefully not, hopefully they come in right on budget and straight to go. But just sharing that as a thought for everyone listening in and seeing this slide here, we're going to have to make some adjustments as we move forward as well, so that we can try to maximize and touch as many spaces as we can with our school, at our schools with the money that we do have from our board.
The other thing that's worth noting is that Da Vinci has expressed some interest in partially funding this project. They haven't committed yet, but they have discussed that they would potentially might be interested in funding the bleachers and the scoreboard and anything else that might be missing from that project. So they are at their own board meeting tonight, so they couldn't be here, but they said mention that. Next project, please. Thank you. Oh, so this is option 2, just as a reminder. I know PBK didn't share since we were focusing on the 135th and Aviation Sports Complex. So as you can see there, this project would be 854 bleachers, scoreboard by the back of the gym, and the NFHS field.
And normally this We have lights there already, right?
Yes.
We have.
So that is the savings. Those red dots that you see, if you can see them, those represent the existing Musco lights.
We don't have the lights, we have the hardware in the ground.
No, I believe we have lights there.
I believe we have
They're already
lights.
there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It does feel very, yes.
Here on this side.
Wow,
Yeah.
did not know that, thank you. Learn something, thank you.
I wasn't 100% sure. I was confirmed, so.
Okay, so our next project is the Holly Glen Elementary School TK conversion project. As a reminder, this project would repurpose the existing Child Development Center that is currently underutilized in order to be able to provide additional classrooms for our TK program. The cost estimate for all in is $2.4 million, 1.8 for hard, 600,000 for soft costs. I think it's also worth noting in this project is that the facilities master plan did call out a new TK building at approximately I'll show it later, but I think it was over $5.4 million. So there is definitely a savings in comparison to the facilities master plan. This project is planned to start construction in January of 2025 and would be completed in August of 2025. Although it seems like it would be an easy project because it's just one building, there's nothing easy about this project. And the reason why it's higher is because DSA has added a whole lot of seismic and structural requirements. We've already had another in-person meeting with DSA trying to see if they would waive, seeing that it was a newer building, waive some of those requirements. We had to go back. I find the original geotechnical firm that was involved. Unfortunately, they're out of business. Fortunately, Dr. Silvers was able to track down the report, so thank goodness for that, because now at least we have the geotech, the original geotech report. But we have to hire a new geotechnical firm to confirm that the way the building was built would still meet current codes. Any questions on this one? Okay. Next project is a similar project, Dale Air Elementary School TK conversion project. This is a much smaller project in scale. It's repurposing again the Child Development Center, taking 2 classrooms and creating one larger one, adding a restroom building and some storage. All the items that are required under the TK program requirements. The overall program cost is $185,000. $363 for hard costs and $121,000. This is another project that we're excited we'll be able to complete this summer. Thank you. This leads us to the facility master plan slide that I mentioned, the cost allocations. As you can see here, the facilities master plan took into account cost allocations per site. So Juan de Anza or Dale Air, just for the projects identified at that site, which the majority of the projects were all minor modernization in scale, with the a couple of safety and security projects and then the field projects. So you're looking at the fields are even in the bottom. You can see that they're tracking the cost for the field separately. $16 million was identified for or allocated under the facilities master plan. I'm not going to read all of them, but you can see how much money was basically allocated at the time. And these are 2022 dollars, which total an identified need of $115 million, $115 million. Obviously, our bond is not for $115 million, it's for $98 million, which is why I showed you and started off with the first slide, which was the global view. That way we know in reality, we only have about $70 million for construction projects. There's a rule of thumb, and even LPA mentioned it here, 2/3 generally from, regardless of your amount, whether the potential funding at the time would have been close to $98 million or $132 million. The rule of thumb is you split it 2/3 construction and then 1/3 for other costs. And those other costs is basically what I mentioned earlier, which is your program administration, and you can see them all here. Any questions on this slide?
This brings up a question for Dr. Silvers relative to King Consulting's help. State matching funds available, not fundable at the moment, but maybe years from now we get it, but do you know our qualification or where we're looking at there?
You know, I don't recall from the last meeting, I believe they presented, it may have been at, of course, a meeting you weren't at, that you missed, but a couple meetings ago that they did give an outline, so we do ask them to come back. I believe it's January that we've asked them to come back, but there is significant dollars, I think 12 million.
I say 12, I wanna say 12.
That will be, but very site, right?
Correct. And over the next basically 10 years, the earliest that we can see, I have been working very close, in fact, both Cherie and I have been working very closely with King Consulting. They are up to date on all of our projects, all of our cost estimates. In fact, we have been strategizing as to how quickly can we start getting in line for some of these projects. And in fact, in doing so, we identified which projects are potentially the low-hanging fruit that might yield some of dollars. And the earliest that we can start seeing some money isn't unfortunately until 2026, but at least we're starting to prepare. And those projects actually will be the solar projects because there'll be smaller projects like the Del Air TK classroom completed this summer, but that's only $485,000 compared to a solar project that falls under modernization and it's in the millions. We can go for that project. So we're on it. We're trying to identify every possible funding source and as soon as we can capture dollars, definitely. I'm not showing it yet on any of our matrices.
Can't count on it yet.
Exactly, because the state still has to pass another bond. And until then, right now, they're just simply estimates. We are tracking them separately. As soon as we know more information, then we'll start adding those into our project budgets.
Just for public knowledge, there is state matching funds potentially available for construction. We are seeking every route possible through our partners, King Consulting, and you're staying on and see, we appreciate that.
Okay, so we're almost done. This is our project budgets basically at a glance. You can see all of our projects in one page. I've listed all of the projects. You can see, for example, that the network infrastructure project is divided into three, like Cherie mentioned, the procurement of equipment, the data center improvements, and the overhaul of the network. That's our projects 1, 1A, and 1B. You can see the original budget allocation that we were tracking, as well as the rough order of magnitude that we have started to receive for some of these. If there was a potential shortfall between the original allocation to the ROM, we're showing it as well. And I've also added columns so that we can track the facilities master plan project that they were listed under. As you can see, the only one that was not listed in the facilities master plan was the Weisborn High School soccer field. All other projects were in one shape or form or the other. And you can see the facilities master plan estimate, which is, I think, very important.
Thank you. I mean, just a comment. So our facilities master plan is really Weisborn facilities. However, the funding is through the Measure EE bond fund, right? The Measure EE bond does allow us to utilize bond measures at all Weisborn owned facilities, which includes this location here, which is why, so for coordination also with our Citizen Bond Oversight Committee, this is a legitimate expenditure as well as it's authorized in the Measure EE language. It's just not shown specifically in the Weisborn Facilities Master Plan, which is a different document. That's not what the bond necessarily governs, if you will. It's the bond language of the ballot measure that allows us to spend monies on the soccer field here. Just providing that for clarification.
Thank you for clarifying.
I think we made an assumption when we did the master plan that the soccer field may be done already, you know, we did years ago, and we were hoping that this is right. So it was no intent to leave it out. It was just one of those things I think we thought was gonna be done by now. Yeah.
I just thought I had to mention that just because there is no cost that was specifically associated. So you can see in comparison, the facilities master plan estimate in comparison to what our cost estimates are coming in. So we are definitely being very conservative, achieving essentially everything that was, for example, Del Air, everything that was listed for Del Air at a fraction of the cost of what was initially planned for. The 135th in aviation, as you can see, very close to the facilities master plan cost was $12.8 million. Ours is under, tracking at 12.4 all in. I did put a couple of notes here. As you can see, we have not received the cost estimate yet for the network overhaul project. I went ahead and added a note about Da Vinci potentially contributing $1.8 million towards the Weisburn High School soccer field. Hopefully that is the case. And then proceeding with a limited notice to proceed, as I mentioned earlier, for Del Air minor modernization. And then lastly, under the 135th in aviation sport complex, we assumed the numbers here assumes that option that was option 8 that was selected. And lastly, that is our project list in the bottom. You can see the totals of all. We're looking at about $30.1 million. We have 19.7 in Series A. Fortunately, the 135th all projects will be funded by Series A, and the 135th in aviation project will be partially funded by both Series A and Series B. The majority of the soft costs will be covered under Series A for the sports complex, and the construction will be Series B.
Series B goes to the market when?
June of 2025 is when we will receive the money. So it'll start a little sooner than
One
that.
more thing to talk about the responsibility you're doing in handling our money here, which is so appreciated. These are 2022 dollars for an estimate, and in 2023 actual dollars, we're at 80% of the projected cost. That's really terrific and much appreciated. Thank you very much.
We're trying. And that's all I have. If there are no further questions.
Any questions? I just have a comment. I want to say, let me thank you for the thorough presentation. Well done, again. So I appreciate that, and great job. Yeah, we're excited. It's exciting times here at Weisman, so thank you.
We're running with all projects at this point.
And I appreciate the transparency as well. I've shared something with Blake on the side, in terms of posting the Series A, like on the website, so the community can see that as well, but I appreciate the transparency.
Right, the last update that we provided worked with Erica was the July newsletter. Is there another newsletter that is planned?
I think the question was more around maybe creating a hub type website with
Well, we have a Measure EE website that we're further developing, so I think
adding
this
that is what
absolutely.
Sharing what's happening in Series A,
Right.
so the community can see it, and again, like you've done a great job, and it's very transparent. Just like to post that so that anybody.
Sounds good. We'll definitely do that.
And one more thing, not for no so thank you guys very much. For Dr. Silvers, as long as we're talking, one last thing about fields. This does raise the issue of the fields at Del Air Park, the baseball field. Can you clarify when, I believe it's 2025 or 26, and to what extent do we own that land that's coming up for lease renewal? And we have a conversation to make with them relative to retaining that land, changing our negotiations, because what I'd like to see is to make the baseball field at Del Air yet another field that we can use for our community.
Yes, so I think I understand. I think the distinction is what was owned by the county versus what's owned by the district. So just for clarification's sake, everything that is behind we're calling it the Sepulveda site now, not to get it mixed up with Del Air Elementary School, but where Da Vinci Connect is and our preschool program. There's fields directly behind that to the west. Yeah, the west. Directly behind that, those are fields owned by the district, currently used by Da Vinci Schools baseball program, as well as Da Vinci Connect in the playground space, and by Weisburn Little League. So those are Weisburn owned facilities. To the south of that are the field, and there's a gate partition pathway. Right. Like an easement type, line of delineation in a sense, and then over on the south side of that is owned by the county. We have had conversations with the county over the years to try and get utilization of that facility. I was very disappointed in the response. I'm just going to be frank. Working with Vicente and at the time trying to find space for baseball, softball programs at Da Vinci for their high school teams, and it was just not well received. The charges, things like that. So we do need to have a conversation because we own the tennis courts, we own the basketball gym there. So, I think we're gonna have to really have some courageous conversations with the county as it relates to the utility of that site and what the district expects. And that joint use agreement that was written back in 1920 something, or it was whatever it was, 60 years ago. Not 1920, but it was a long time ago that is more favorable to the district and the use that we need moving forward. That's a long-winded answer for your
Situation where this lease agreement made 60 years ago is becoming due in 2026.
6, 5, and 6. I have to check on that. No, 6, 2026.
Too early to start negotiations yet, but not by much.
No, it takes a year for them to return a call, so we need to be pretty careful.
Anyway,
Sorry.
so thank you for just keeping that.
I apologize.
And thank you. But I don't know if that's a facilities committee conversation.
It is, I think that we'll take that under, our action, Neil, in terms of, for the lease, and also the present, or the workshop in the future for the additional, district prioritization of projects as we move forward that Noemi mentioned. Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
All right, next item are reports, district leadership reports, Blake.
So, is Eileen here?
I'm here.
Oh, she's here. I'm just kidding.
See, by the bell.
Yeah, there we go. Thanks for sneaking in.
Good evening. I just wanted to give a couple of updates. We had a group of 12 going to a math conference November 2nd and 3rd. And we had representation from every grade level. And it was a math conference hosted by the California Math Council in Palm Springs, where we had 2 administrators also and our math specialists. So it was a full team. And the goal of the trip was to attend both professional development sessions to learn more about math instruction, but also to identify the top contenders for our math adoption. So they worked hard. It was an outstanding couple of days, I think, fully packed. So we want to give them a lot of credit for that. On December 7th, the math committee, which if you remember was started last year, where we set our lens and looked at our perspective of math and the district and where we were headed, they're going to convene again and hopefully choose just 2 programs for us to, that will meet our requirements that we would pilot over 2 6-week periods. And from there, we'll review the math materials again, involve, of course, the whole staff going forward with communication and so forth. So looking forward to that. Come back to you when we have more information. We also had a professional learning day on November 9th, last Thursday. And this PG day is a little bit different. It was fully developed by our 4 principals who, through our principal collaborative time, agreed that they wanted a fully active learning day, and they emphasized collaboration among staff across district. So for TK5, we had our math specialist, Holly Compton. We had our STEM coordinator, Andy DeSere. And we also had our school counselors working with Monique Ingram. And they facilitated various workshops throughout the day. So it was a rotation throughout. They had hands-on robotics where they got to live the life of a student, putting together our Lego robotics and also coding them to move around the room, which was great watching teachers do that. We had our TK specialists working to have math workshops specific to the grade span that she was working with. So they really identified what they needed. And then collaborative sessions on student wellness and safety. That include group discussions and more collaboration with teachers across school sites. At Weisberg Middle School, the continued focus on personalization of learning, where students were discussed at team time. They do something very interesting where they have in their team a roll call of all their students to identify where each student is in their learning and their social emotional needs. Very interesting practice at that school. And they also took time to talk about their common strategies that they use across curricular areas. They call this their dolphin powers. And I'm sure Ms. Clark will talk about that more maybe this year when she comes in. And then of course, student wellness and safety, which was hosted by the counselors, but also by Ms. Clark, who handled a lot of that too. So great day, great outcomes from our survey as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Dr. HD.
Good evening, everyone. I have really 3 updates. It's going to be about the preschool, and then also talk about the technology update, and then give you some information on the gym piece as well. I think I have a PowerPoint. So we go to the next slide, and just to get to the agenda. So I definitely want to review some background. Oh, thank you. Okay. I want to review some background on the preschool. I know we presented last March about the plan with the preschool and how to really reduce the what we call a transfer in, or we can also call it a contribution. We're attempting to do that. Also, with that, I'll give an enrollment update, and then as where we are now, and then a fiscal update, and of course, do recommendations for next steps. Again, the preschool, if you're ever looking at the budget report, you're gonna see Fund 63. It's known as an enterprise program, so it is what would be called an entrepreneurial program. So kids that, or youth or children really 3 through 4 that are in this program are paying for the use of this program. Okay, so the background, TK, we had a lot of changes starting over a year ago, where that meant really a decrease in our overall number of 4-year-olds, which did cause an overall decrease in the numbers and enrollment with preschool. Also, just remember we have pretty strict ratios, that 1 to 8, 1 adult to 8 students. So that does pose some problems with staffing, and just if we're looking to try to reduce staff, it's challenging with that. And of course, some of the actions we took last year, we did reduce. We went from 4 to 3 classrooms last year. And then of course, we did have a adopted budget contribution of about $205,000 that was budgeted, that was approved. And so that was really the overall goal going into this year, was to reduce that shortfall. And then of course, we got the 23-24 school year. That really, what I'm trying to say here is this was really a baseline. We put some controls in place to see where we would land. And so, we built some assumptions, and really those assumptions were if we could have 3 classrooms of students that were 16 full-time students and then 7 half-day students. And we assumed that if we did that for 12 months, this is where we would land. And then of course, the final thing is what we did is we did an increase of about 20% for the 23-24 school year. For example, a full day student now is $1,060 and a half day student is $660. That went up from the previous year. So I want to get to the current enrollment. It is down, and I want to say we did have a much lower month of enrollment for July and August. And what you see here are numbers pulled from as of right now where we are. So the half-day students we're at total are 15. And if you're thinking about 3 classrooms, if we're going for 7, we'll get 21. Or if we looked at full day, 32, well, we would want to be at 48. And we're not making that mark right now. And really, there's a number of reasons. We have just less demand for the program that we expected. And again, we've had just students that started off full day and then they reduced to half day. But the total we have is 47. And then you'll see that total students with SPED, and that's special education. It's 57, but really that's 10 special ed kids that are there for a half day. But we'll have 3 of those special ed kids that stay for the full day, and they're paying for a half day because they're for a full day. So there's 13 kids in the total program, but 3 of those 13 are staying the full day and they pay a half.
So to clarify, special ed mandates half day. If you want to opt for a full day, you have to pay. Correct. Thank you.
Considered extended care at that point, and so they get the curriculum during their half day, and then the rest is extended care. Could I add to though, Jason, that I think one of the things, I know we mentioned it lightly, but I just want to point out that this is sort of an unprecedented time with our 3 and 4-year-olds, just because we did have these high numbers of 4-year-olds and 3-year-olds, so we were able to, oh, you have this. Yeah, oh, this was the first slide, yeah. And so I just want to highlight the fact that had such an impact on where we are right now. More so from the fact that we didn't have any background data to be able to determine where we thought we would be. We just had this is our baseline year for all intents and purposes.
The one thing, you see the line there, we do have students on the wait list, and the students, the issue with that is they're not eligible at this point. You have to be 3 years old to be in the program and or potty trained. So that's a criteria for eligibility in the program. Well, you have students ready to start at certain times. But
Can we overlook the potty training part?
I'm sure the team will appreciate that.
Yeah.
I know we're looking a little
It's
bit at
licensed.
the old mark, but not the other one.
So just
You're on fire tonight.
Sorry. What we budgeted, and again, we we were conservative with the contribution, or what we call a transfer. And when I say transfer, it's a transfer out. So we're taking money from the general fund to pay for this program into Fund 63, which is the preschool program.
We're subsidizing this program.
Exactly. So we budgeted that at 205. Based on the current enrollment right now, we're falling short about 198, and that's current enrollment. Now, Dr. Dougal has been helpful too, and we've both been having meetings. I've met with our director. We're really looking at what potential students are out there, and we do have some hope that we can decrease this. I just have to say it's an approximate. If we have certain students, for instance, if we have a certain student that's going to start in January, we have a certain student that might start in December. And I put Mays in front of those, and that'll be on another slide. But right now, based on the current enrollment, we're at 198 as a shortfall, approximately.
And is that, or do you have a projection for next year?
Well, that's what we're going to get into the recommendations. As far as we get into next year, we're going to have to make some decisions. Okay, so, and this gets into just an idea. Two main things. Obviously, we have to increase enrollment. And the sooner the better, especially in this year, we want to reduce that shortfall as much as possible. If you look at, for instance, we did have a half-day student, and again, that's whenever I see half-day, I think $660. When I see full-day, full-time, it's at $1,060. So November, we had one student that started in December. We're gonna have up to, and I would say May, because sometimes we do call these students, they're not ready to start, but we do have them on the list, and they will be eligible starting in December. And then January, we are looking at one full-time, and then February, you see one student may start. Yes.
We make a concerted effort to work with local communities and local district areas for permanent students to our K through 8, with DK through 8. Are we doing the same? I'm not sure if this is a question for you or maybe marketing or with this, could we be putting more, are we putting the energy into marketing this to the local areas, to not just, hey, there's 4 students hanging out there, but there may be 100 students, we don't even know that.
I have to say that I wish the answer was yes, and it's not. We need to do a better job of opening our marketing. I think we just needed to see this baseline, because you don't want to overmarket and have these huge wait lists. I wish we would have.
It is what it is, some costs. I encourage us to move forward with that.
And what is our capacity? Right now, we have 57 students. I know it's a combination of full-time and half-time, but what, if we were at maximum capacity for our classrooms, how many students could we accommodate?
69 students, but we have to reserve a certain number of those for special education, and that can vary at times. For instance, right now we're reserving 9 spots for students that are pending special ed, so we have to hold those, because the worst thing we could do.
To the 10? That's in addition to the 10 that are currently there now?
Right.
Oh, so reserve.
Right now we have
move-ins, like new students with special ed needs.
Students that become eligible
That become,
when they turn 3.
okay. So really, we only have space, so if we're looking at 69, that's 12, we really can only add 3 more students to the whole program.
Unless the 9 that are eligible are not, we're determining that right now. And as soon as we know it's not all 9, it's 8, then we can add 4, so it's, yeah.
Okay. So, okay.
We could add another classroom too, if we had significant demand, no?
We have the space to do that, but with the numbers now, I would not recommend.
Would make sense,
So there are a few things, if we look at just fiscally, I'm always thinking about how can we reduce expenditures in total. So we do have a bungalow there that leases up on, I want to say July 31st. It falls on a weird month, and that's with SKC. So I was trying to figure out if we were to obviously not use that. We have 3 classrooms. We could reutilize one of the 4 classrooms for the office space for the preschool, and then we could reduce about $70,000 of expenses, and that's roughly about 10% of the budgeted expenditures. And of course, the final one you see there is that increased prices. If we were to increase prices, I don't have a percent on that, but I mean, at this point, I'm in the realm of 20%. However, we got to think about that price going up and then demand going down because the price is going up, and we did have a few of those where people saw the increase in price and they didn't want to join, just a couple. So those are just things to consider if we're going to increase prices, but we got to think both ways.
We would need to see comparatives of local offerings.
I
have a comment on that.
Yeah, I did get one quote, it's from Brightwell Costs Guide, December. They look at a lot of different preschools. The average cost for full day preschool is, $12.74, about 1,200, or let me make sure, no, I'm sorry, 1,430. 1,430. If we raised our prices 20%, it'd be about 1,274. So, but that's something I can put together.
So Jason, but that's including all very private preschools as well.
Yes.
I mean, the question is, I think, you know, are we?
Each city's local
Right,
community.
right, yeah, more publicly run.
Yeah, local options.
Yeah.
Sorry. No.
The other thing I would just urge, like timeline wise, in talking to the director of the program, really enrollment starts in January. So we really would want to make some type of plan and get it out there in December, and then we can really look at enrollment, how we're going to do that going and notice everybody accordingly. So when we start around September, that's how we got to think too, because that's really where they start their first of their school year, when all the new kids are going to start. So we want to plan around that. And so if we're going to make a determination as to what, or recommendation of what the price should be, December would be a good time, but I could bring those back at that time to make that.
Sounds like that's an agenda item for a presentation at that meeting.
Yes.
Recommendation based on some conversation.
Yes. I'm gonna move on. Unless we have questions, let me, before I do, I want to stop. Is there any more questions about okay. Just a quick, this is just to let the board know, it has happened in early, second week of October, we had approximately 200 Chromebooks that we had a battery malfunction. They started swelling up, getting hot. And so just be on the safe side, we pulled them. It came out to about 425 devices that we pulled from the classroom. And it was quite the scramble to redistribute. So we made sure, go ahead. So we made sure that 3 through 5th grade, this really didn't affect the junior high, but 3 through 5th grade had full sets. K through 2 right now do have reduced sets of about 10 Chromebooks per classroom. So that was the redistribution. The good news, we were able to work with HP, and even though these devices that are not under warranty anymore, they have agreed to fix them, and they are going to actually send people out to replace the batteries with certified mechanics or software engineers, wherever the tech guys, and they were planning on starting to do the repair the week of November 27th. So that's a good thing that we're going to get these things fixed. But in the meantime, we've had to do some movement of the Chromebooks. And of course, the other technology update, this just makes us aware we need to purchase some Chromebooks just for backups, and that will be on the board item today as well.
Speaking of the board item today, relative to, I was going to say maybe we don't want to buy HP laptops, but actually I think I'd rather say, but more relevantly say, we don't want to buy whatever batteries were used in those laptops, and do we know that?
Right. I don't know about the battery. I know the ones that are on there are the Lenovo's, which are the ones they're the same brand we purchased, and those have been doing well. We haven't had one issue. I think we had one broken screen, but since they're under warranty, we got the new one right away. We can turn them in and get new ones.
And I just want to clarify, Jason, you mentioned that we would, this agenda item, and we would have backups. I think the backups would be the HPs.
Yes.
That we use, and we would distribute the Lenovo's so that those HPs, which are older, and if, will be used either for checkout for students, because we do offer checkout, and there's other options and functions that we can use for that, but this is a good time to refresh our Chromebook set anyway.
Right. I don't have a slide on this, but I wanted to give an update on, I'll put questions here, but on the gym fees, right now we charge $100 an hour for the use of the Wiseburn Middle School gym. And just to give some numbers, I want to make sure in 22-23, our total revenue was $95,440. I'll say that again. 22-23 revenue was $95,440. 22-23 beginning balance of the previous year carryover, and I'm going to go kind of year by year. Was $157,461. And then throughout the 22-23 school year, we had $70,978 in expenses. 22-23. And then the carryover going into this year, we had $86,482. And as of today, 23-24, our year-to-date balance for gym fees is $95,407. One of the things we are considering, or we really need to do, is increase this rate. So we do have a calculator that we use with the CDE, and right now, based on the calculation we put in, it's about a 30% increase, maybe $131 per hour. And so that would just give you an idea, based on that, the 22-23 revenue, we'd be looking at 124,000 versus 95,000. So it's a significant increase. So we'll be bringing that back to the board in January, and with those increases for those rates.
Effective for 2024.
Yeah, yes.
So thank you. I'd asked about this sometime ago, so thank you for getting back to me. I am curious what our neighbors are charging. Is that 124?
They charge more depending on size. It's all about the size of the gym. I'll share the calculator with you. It's pretty complex, but you have to put really the value of the property, how much you're using it, and it's actually a calculator that's mandated by I want to say, it's ed code to a degree, and so that's where we get the number from.
The Civic Center uses.
Yeah, the Civic Center. Yeah.
So it looks like we're being judicious with our funds, spending less than we're taking in, which may give us some opportunity to be creative with those funds moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you.
I do want to make one more comment. I'm sorry about the long comments, guys, but on the preschool, I just want to point out, as far as I'm concerned, even running that program at a loss is not a loss for us, because we're in an environment where we're competing with other school districts throughout Southern California, and we have declining enrollment in surrounding districts. We're competing for students. My supposition, I'd love to see data on this, is that those 3-year-olds stay with us. That represents 9 years of being in our schools at roughly $10,000 per kid. Do 20 kids or 40 kids times $90,000. That's an investment I would stand by all day long in this competitive environment. So even at a loss with us doing that in the general fund, I think it's a win in the long term, and I just want to share that perspective.
Oh, hey.
I don't have anything.
Oh, we listed you as having something.
Oh.
It was the grant for inclusion. So I can share. Do you want me to share for you? I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Don't take my time.
Sorry, I'm still recovering from knee surgery.
You're doing great. And why are you in heels?
I was released without restrictions, so I'm wearing my heels.
There you go.
Good evening, everyone. So Southwest SELPA has, through the superintendent's special projects, they are offering an inclusion grant for the districts up to $12,000. So we made an application for a variety of different options for training for staff, all the way from instructional assistants to general education and special education teachers to start this year, and then to go full force a little bit more next year. So training on inclusive practices, helping with grading students with IEPs. That's a common question we get, and it's a tricky one teachers navigate. So yeah, I'm excited about that. And as I said, we'll start in the kind of small steps this year and do more full day trainings next year, hopefully.
Value of the grant.
$12,000.
Thank you. Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you.
Pardon?
2 options. I think we could get up to 24,000.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Enough to fund
This is
some training.
superintendent's project, Dr. Silver. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Just my turn. Yeah, just a few updates for me. Want to thank Holly Glen Neighborhood Association and Wyvern Watch. Brought to our attention an issue related to safety concerns at Holly Glen Park, and we did have an opportunity with Chief Tomatani from HPD, as well as Dr. Ingram, who was there, to be able to discuss with some of the community members some of the issues. But I was just really appreciative because it was more about problem solving and how we as a community can support this. It was just definitely a worthwhile conversation, and certainly some areas that we're working on at the middle school. I'm also working with continuing to try to work with the South Bay Workforce Investment Board to maybe fund an internship where someone could actually be stationed there, a recreation leader that would work through the WIB, but through training with the counselor at the middle schools. They know the kids, that kind of thing. So again, that's still to be determined, but it's the way we're going. But I just wanted to note that and to thank them. Also want to thank our school sites because we did have a great shakeout. just continuing to hone the safety. And from that, what I appreciated is that, these drills aren't going to be perfect. And I really appreciated the note taking that was happening, attention to detail, and what things needed to be addressed or fixed, I should say, as we move forward. So there's some work we need to do there as well. Also had an opportunity 2 weeks ago on Friday, a week and a half ago, to attend the Superintendent's Collaborative that's put on by Dr. Eduardo Laco. And the focus there was AI. And I'm not going to do justice to what was shared there. Google was present and Spotify. And it's just amazing, some of the tools there. And it's not coming, it's here. And it's something that we're going to have to be really diligent about not only understanding, but understanding the benefits and how it works. And I think the why of it is really important, that people understand why this is a value to them and to others. So we're going to continue that exploration. I know Eileen has been really instrumental in that piece with Sarah in looking at various options with AI, focusing first on the adults, figuring out how this can help teachers teach in the classroom, teaching and learning, and as well as maybe some of our administrators in the work that they do. So that was definitely fun. More fun than that was the hackathon engineering day that we had at Aviation Elementary School last Saturday. Mr. D was the spearhead of this whole program and this show. Fifth graders just had a blast. I had more comments from parents, from fifth graders about just how much fun it was. Thank you to the LA County Fire Department. They came out, raised the hook and ladder, the big ladder thing on the back of their truck, and dropped the eggs off for the egg drop. There was also a robotics competition. It was a really, really nice day. Thank you, Tylene. She was there from start to finish on a pretty hot day with lots of kids. So, thank you for doing that too. And then I want to thank WEF and congratulate WEF on a great event that I was able to attend that same night. That was at, what's the name of the school? Was it Wiseburn Middle School? I'm going to get it one of the time. Wiseburn Middle School. I should know. I do this all the time. That's because I've worked there for so many years. But Wiseburn Middle School, in the gym, it was neon nights, 80s theme. It was just a really nice event. They just decorated it. It's funny because we chaperoned so many student dances in there. I felt like I was in like supervision posture, walking through, just because it's just we're so used to that. But anyway, just nice things going on, and wish everybody happy Thanksgiving. Thanks.
I think we're gonna go next to the board reports at the request of Roger. We're wrapping that one up. And Roger, we'll start with you.
I'd love to. Thank you. I have 3 items for today. Just wanted to share a couple of things. So as I currently serve as the Wiseburn representative to the LA County Committee on District Organization, wanted to share that they did have their election of new officers on October 23rd. I did cast our Wiseburn vote, and I've been in touch with Allison Deegan over at LACO. They have not yet published the votes. Not sure why, but it's October 23rd, and she promised that they would be getting that out soon. So Wendy, you may be receiving an email from LA County. If you could please share that so that we know the outcome of that election. The next item is the LA County School Trustees Association is having their next meeting on November 27th. I also serve as our Wiseburn rep. I'll be attending that, and they have several changes on bylaws as well as officers and committees and elections. So once that meeting occurs, I'll also provide an update here to keep everyone updated on LACSTA. The final item that I have is if we can calendar Dr. Silver's a follow-up presentation from the 2 presentations we've had also on special education and the budgets. The last one we had was, long story short, a lot of factors in there, but we did have revenues of 2.7 with million, with expenditures of 7.8. We do have a deficit of 5.1 million in that category. So it's great to have the reports and the presentations, but also wanted to see what we can do and how we're adjusting or managing those situations by still providing the right services to our students. It's a delicate balancing act here, but I don't want to lose focus on that area because it is an area of concern for the overall finances of the district. So if we can look at a future date to bring that forward with some recommendations as to what can be done to reduce that cost as well. Obviously not in one shot, but as a whole, a vision, a plan to manage those expenses.
So
If we
I
could look
just
at
want to
that.
make sure I understand. Right. So basically, how are we managing that gap?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, how are we managing the gap and how can we reduce the gap?
That's what
I'm not looking to keep the gap.
Right.
Just want to make sure we're clear on the expectation. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I, so we'll have. Yeah, Jason, Peggy, maybe, but I'll calendar, I'm thinking maybe January, February, does that sound?
I'd like to give this the ample time, so I'd look for you, for staff, you to tell me what works. It's a complicated web, a lot of different pieces, so take your time with it in the sense that I do want to see it back and give you enough time to have a comprehensive review of that with some good recommendations that we can really study.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Actually, last comment, I did, wanted to, and I'll do it again when Ms. Joanne Caneda is here present, but I wanted to publicly thank her for all of her years of service here on the board. As Nelson mentioned, she did submit her resignation of the board or retirement resignation. However, I really wanted to thank her for all of her years of service here on the board. And when she's here and she joins us at a future board meeting, we'll obviously have an opportunity to have that conversation and thank her in person. But I just, I wanted to recognize her for her service as well. Okay, that's all I have. Neil.
Thank you, Nelson. Let me piggyback on that again. I definitely want to recognize Joanne. What a gift she has been to our district, and what a friend going back 25 years when we all were involved starting WEF again, and just been a good friend and a good knowledgeable, dedicated leader to our district. So we'll recognize her in person for sure. I want to thank Eddie Orinda for his comments relative to Holly Glen Park and that issue as well, and bringing that to our attention. Thank you for the action there. Really appreciate that. Excited about the AI conference. Neat to hear. Obviously concerned about the fraud and issues there, which I don't know if that was talked about, but I hope it was. It was not. Okay. So that's one of my concerns. But just for teachers, AI lesson planning alone seems like a fantastic leveraging opportunity. So very exciting, and if we can take advantage of that to the benefit of our teachers, amen. Like Roger, thank you for your commitment and dedication on the roles you play. I'm also continuing to serve with LCFA, our partnership with Centinela, Lenox, Lawndale, Hawthorne, and Wiseburn relative to Measure CL and the funds that we obtain from that parcel tax, which are wonderfully dedicated for use for students in all of our districts. And thank you for the judicious management of those funds, both of you and everybody on the cabinet. Just an update is that we had our audit in a prior meeting. By the way, I'm vice chair of that committee, so I'll probably be chairman in the next go around. But we just had our audit.
You have my support.
Because I'm saving it for me. No, it's good, really good people dedicated, and we had our audit prior meeting, and the money's being managed very efficiently. Thank you for the gym fee update. Thank you to the WEF for the $25,000 teachers grant to give funds and support to our teachers. Thanks to the community for contributing to WEF. Thank you very much. Thank you for the gym fee update. If there's any opportunity for investments down the road, we'd love to hear that too. And I think that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil.
Dr. Coleman, I want to jump in on the investments piece.
Yeah.
Is that we do have an item here on the agenda for PAR's early retirement program. And PARS also offers a couple options for some investments for the district, very safe investments. So it might be, so actually I have engaged a conversation early on with them. But probably the best way for us to go, we did look at other options. Tim Cardy didn't really support some of those early options, something more risky. We didn't want to get into the risk side of it. This is a lot safer and something that there's a couple options that we have, one being a little more liquid and then the other one not so much. So we need that.
Why I'm so hot on this is that by government mandate, we have to maintain 3% reserve. We maintain more than that, which means we have to keep this money on hand. Why not have it working for us in this high interest rate environment with low risk? So I appreciate that, sir. Thank you.
Just two quick comments on from my end. I also want to take an opportunity to say recognize Joanne for her retirement. She took me in when I first joined the board and was a mentor, so I appreciate that. We'll certainly recognize her in December. We'll have more to say about that. And then just listening to Neil here, finishing up with thank yous, thank you. I'm very grateful to serve with this board, very grateful for the administration and the cabinet, and as we approach the holiday season here, it's a time to be grateful and grateful to the principals, school sites, teachers, and the extended team members that are helping us out here at Wiseburg. It's obviously busy and exciting time, so just grateful to be part of this district. I just want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving as we approach Thanksgiving. So have a wonderful time with family and friends. That's all I have. Let's move to consent items. Oh, no, sorry. Public comments, items on the agenda. You're supposed to check me, Wendy. So, we have two, public comments. The first one is Ms. Julie Guthrie, use of fields, 135th and Aviation. Is she perhaps on, online?
Not to, she had practice, so she left.
She left, okay.
But she left me here too.
All right, well, Mr. Shavita Vendrano, come.
There we go, man.
Regarding that sports complex.
Sports complex, yes. My name is Shavita Medrano. Born and raised in Hawthorne, and hey, finally getting the sports complex done. That's just is an honor. Oh, there we go. There you go. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so I had the pleasure of going to elementary school here as well, Cabrillo, Hollywood, and me too. It'll always be Dana. This is Blake Silvers. My son did go through Da Vinci Science. My daughter graduated Da Vinci Design, and I have a son in Da Vinci Design as well. And I have my nieces over at Aviation. So. Been around a long time. I wasn't here to be, I wasn't able to be here for the last board meeting, but I did see the video on the sports complex, and I was looking at option 1 and 3, and I was concerned because obviously I'm looking at this snack stand that's in the corner, so I'm glad to see option 8. It's fantastic. I'm also part of the AYSO board. I've been helping out for the last 20 years. I'm not here on speaking on behalf of AYSO, but as a parent, as a coach, as well. But we have a lot of players. We probably do between 13 and like 1,800 players year round. So all that soccer facility, all that space is absolutely needed. I was concerned too with not seeing lights. I know that, Roger, you had mentioned that. Lights is essential. As the community continues to grow and you guys mentioned it with baseball and softball as well. It's everything to these kids, and I think that, by having these fields with lights will really kind of expand more opportunity to practice. Because we're getting really limited, especially as the other sports are growing. So it's nice to see movement. It sounds like 2024 is going to be huge. And we just, obviously we've been partners, with the school board. AYSO has for the last 10, 15 years. So, going forward, we look forward to obviously being able to sit down and making sure that, we have that ability to obviously utilize the fields for our kids. We have a lot of them. So just want to make it on public record, right? Just to make sure that, you guys reach out to us. Okay. And thank you for your time. And I'm really excited about it because that's going to be a staple. I can already picture like Friday Night Lights stuff, honestly, because we're doing it over at Del Air right now, and parents love it. The kids love it. So the ability to just kind of expand, I can only see, also, baseball and softball, appreciating it as well. So good job on that. Option 8, though, I do like that, and better than the other 2 options. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Was that Julie's comment incorporated in there?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, no other public comments, correct, Wendy? All right, move to this consent items. Item 10.1, do I have a motion?
You have a motion for 10:1 to 10:15 with a comment.
That's fantastic. Go to second. Equally fantastic. Comment?
My comment is, we have here investment in the fencing, and I think this is the chain link fencing. Just an observation, we have rust on our fences in the metal fencing. That is of concern, particularly at Bel Air, and I don't know if that's being considered in our plans.
Are you talking the wrought iron?
Yeah, wrought iron.
No, we have not looked at that yet. It will be covered in the modernization.
Okay, so we're waiting on that because it's part of that investment.
Okay, it's part of the safety and security.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay. Any other?
That was it. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Fantastic. Next item, 11, I guess we'll take this one, the next three separate here. The district logo, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
And
You have a second.
All right. Any comments or questions?
I do an exercise with my clients and it says, I am not the target. I think I might have mentioned that a few weeks ago. I don't think we are the target. I defer to the positive feedback from the staff and from Erica, our consultant, and am thrilled that we're moving forward with that.
I have no further comments.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Fantastic.
Aye.
Looking forward to seeing this on swag, right?
That's it.
All right. Item 11.2, WFA initial proposal for the 23-24 reopener negotiations. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Roger.
And a second.
Thank you, Neil. Any questions,
Do we need any comments from Dr. Griggle?
comments?
Pretty perfunctory.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Fantastic. 11.3, district response to the initial proposal for 23-24 reopener negotiations for Weisberg Teachers Association or WFA.
Just to mix it up, you have a motion.
Thanks,
Just
Neil.
mix it up. Yeah, second.
Fantastic, Roger. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Action items, facilities. This is related to the earlier public hearing that we had. This is the adoption of resolution number 23-24.13, authorizing the execution and delivery of a lease purchase agreement in an aggregate appraisable amount not to exceed 10.8 million and the execution of other legal documents relating thereto. Do I have a motion?
You have a motion.
Thank you, Neil. Second.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions?
Just a thank you for all the time, Dr. Silvers, you took between these meetings to find out the data, to give us the analysis, to give us the performance. Noemi, thank you as well and your team. This was an important decision. I wasn't going to make it without seeing the numbers, and seeing that reassured me. So thank you very much.
I do have a comment here. Wanted to share in the 13 years that I've been here on the board, a solar project was like one of the very first things that we considered and asked about. And I asked the district, where are we with solar? How come we don't have solar? Over and over and over. And I think we did 4 studies with different consultants, different vendors. And quite frankly, it just didn't pencil out for us. The finances weren't there, and this board reviewed it, and we weren't ready to approve something that didn't make financial sense, that wasn't going to give us the return. So it's actually very rewarding to see it on the agenda for a vote today, where the performance that we've reviewed does pencil out for us. So I'm very excited for this project and to see it come to fruition, and a lot of steps, but this is a big one. So thank you.
If I may, one last thing. 22 years from now, we're giving our future board members, future administrators, close to a $2 million savings annually every year. And we don't pay, we're in a net positive every year to get there. This is fantastic. Very exciting. Thank you, Lucia.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Action items, fiscal. Excuse me, this is the approval of the emergency purchase of the Chromebook devices. I think you mentioned earlier, Jason, and the Chrome cards for academic instruction and assessment. Do I have a motion?
You have a motion.
Second.
Thank you, Roger. All in favor, or any comments or questions? Apologies. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
13.2, approved purchase of musical instruments.
We have a motion?
We have a second and a question, just
Thank you, Roger.
please, make that, your comment may answer the
Yes.
question.
So we just have a need for more instruments. We have more students participate in instruments. There's also been some shared instruments that have gone utilized between Da Vinci schools and Wiseburn. So we needed to true that up a little bit as our programs have gotten more robust, if you will, and their programs have gotten more robust. And as we're actually merging in a lot of ways the program, as you'll see with this musical instrument. Christina's here. Thank you for the time that I mean, she put in some really diligent hours and time to, I mean, literally down to the model number of instruments just to make sure that we had a situation that we came to an agreement that we all felt comfortable with. So what you see here is a $49,000, $50,000 expense. Essentially, 25,000 of that is being covered by Da Vinci. In return, they're receiving some of those instruments that they were using that the district essentially owned. We were happy and have been happy to share with them because, you know, we really appreciate this program. So this was an opportunity to, I guess, not make it right, but just sort of rebuild some of those instruments. We're very low in violins, so we have to make that purchase. I also want to add that Piper Redmond, who's one of our teachers here, was instrumental in finding this deal for us. And this is a fantastic price for what we're getting. So, you know, Sarah's not here anymore, but Sarah was also instrumental in this. Just a lot of people that put time into making sure that this was the right deal and that we were able to work with Da Vinci on this issue here.
Thank you. And
Question?
yeah, it does. And I also want to comment, thank you to Da Vinci for the partnership here. Anywhere we can leverage each other for win-win is a win for everybody. So thank you.
Thank you, Blake. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 13.3, approved core learning. Do we have a motion?
A motion?
Thank you,
Second.
Roger. Thank you, Neil. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye. Open that.
Item 13.4, approve the consultant agreement for the 23-24 school year. Colin J. Gallagher, Psychological Corporation. Do we have a motion?
We have a motion and a question.
Thank you, Neil.
Second?
Thank you, Roger. Question, Neil?
Is this the partnership with El Segundo?
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm assuming she got up pretty quick.
Yeah, but I should be on.
There you go.
There we go. No, this is for an IEE for a student, with an IEP.
We do have some shared resource with El Segundo.
Yeah.
That's under special ed or.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Dr. Goldman, you did add, I'm looking at that now. You asked me earlier and I never responded. So that was, I believe it was in the receipts, correct?
Oh.
It would have been premature to get money for something we hadn't approved. So
Yeah.
I wasn't sure, but I thought maybe.
So it says here, 2022-23 program specialist apportionment. What is that?
That's the money from the SELVA. It's just it's funding from,
But why is it a reimbursement from El Segundo?
this form, Jason.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm gonna have to find out more.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would have, let me look into it.
Okay.
It just let us know. I'm not really worried about it. It's money to us. It's appreciated, but be nice
It's
to know
separate.
what we're partnering.
You okay with it?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Action item number 14, personnel. Item 14.1.
Both of those.
You should take both.
Yeah, I think we can.
It almost seems like it's.
Sorry.
14.1 and 14.2.
I know we should almost approve the resolution first, then, yeah, it's backwards. That's
I'll
what I
move
thought.
14.2.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions with regards to 14.2?
I think this is a neat opportunity we're providing for our district personnel and hope they explore it.
Absolutely. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And now, 14.1, approve the agreement with the public agents retirement system funds.
I'll move.
Thank you,
I'll
Roger.
second.
Thank you, Neil. All in favor?
Aye.
Fantastic. Before we go to, I did want to just acknowledge something here. My colleagues here failed, we didn't recognize it. consent item 10.11, 10.12, 10.13. Thank you for those forms, cleaning them up. And I'm just kidding. I don't know if you noticed they revised those forms, Neil. Part of that is now you'll see on those items like previously board approved. So they look great. So I appreciate that.
That's a Wendy. Thank you for
So thank you,
sure.
Wendy.
I have to.
I really appreciate that. Same thing with the conference attendance and the field trips too. So. And then closing items, any upcoming dates or?
Yeah, there's a lot actually. We have Thanksgiving break and then Christmas, holiday break,
Winter break.
winter break. I don't know, thank you, sorry. For whatever, yeah. We have Avery, Turkey Trot that is coming up this weekend, Friday, that's at Aviation. We also have, again, our Thanksgiving break, and that is a week off. It's actually a holiday week in the district, so all the district facilities are closed down that week. Basically no work happening here during that week, so hopefully everybody enjoys that. We also then have our Weisboro Middle School Student Family Partner Workshop that's in lieu of the traditional parent-teacher conferences. This is another approach at making that connection with families and students by the staff at Weisboro Middle School. That's happening on Thursday, November 30th, Friday, December 1, we have a family craft night, that's at Aviation. Also December 1, we have the winter dance at Delaware Elementary School, and that's a TK2 dance. Followed by Saturday, we have the Holly Glen Bear Bazaar and Bake Sale, and that is a great event. If you can walk by there, it's just a really cute and fun community event. So that's on the December 2nd, and then shortly thereafter, we will be on winter break.
There you go.
That's all I have.
Well, thank you, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. That adjourns the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.